Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the G1 League, our second match of today's doubleheader. It's Vici Gaming facing off against Rilimin, the former Chinese pub stars. They've now formed a team, and, well, they're not really pub stars any longer. They've been playing together for a little while now, a few months at that, and let's see how they're going to do here. They struggled quite a bit in the G League. But we've seen them have some good games, have some performances. They've shown the potential to go far, but so far have not put together any signature wins or any really dominating performances over the course of a tournament. The G1 League will be the next test for Vici Gaming, and over on the other side, we have the heavy underdogs, the unproven team, and Team Rilimin. Vodka asked me to give a shout-out to Famofu, so doing it now. Shout-out to you, Famofu, but Famofu no longer with this team as far as I know. He has apparently been replaced or decided to move on one way or the other. With that being said, I'm LD Beyond the Summit. Of course, you're watching the G1 League. If you want to watch this on their website to support them, go to g1.2p.com. And I'm joined here by Luminous, who is casting for the comfort of the couch.
I'm yawning profusely, so this couch is
you're also
helping
really
out.
Quiet, by the way.
I am very quiet. Let me change that.
Yeah. I told you that mic was a little far away from your face, Bubba.
10 seconds.
How about now?
You sound like you're like 10 feet away.
Oh my god. Alright, I will hold the penis mic next to my mouth. Are we good?
Do you really have to say that? You're still a little bit quiet, to be totally honest. But, I mean, if you could get the microphone, in a proper position so we can hear you clearly, that would be just fantastic, Lumi. I realize that you want to basically be in bed right now, but some of us are trying to cast a game of Dota, all right? In the meantime, guys, Rilimin, they've started the draft with the first pick. They go for the Darkseer. Not opted to take Keeper of the Light. Batrider, Nyx, Nakes, and then, of course, the Magnus are 4 bans. Pretty standard bans at that. And, Lumi, how you doing?
I don't...
Now you're good.
Loud?
You're good.
I'm good? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope so. You sound better.
I sound better indeed. Alright, sorry for that technical mishap. Darkseer, Queen of Pain, and Shadow Demon is the first 3 hero for our men here, and I think really for me, Vici Gaming is how well CTY is going to be playing, because of the 2 matches I think they played against Orange Esport, a lot of draft centers around CTY. If he gets this big farming hero, if he gets a snowball, the game's not even close. If not, then they lose. So CTY is my X Factor hero and player to actually watch out for.
Yeah, of course, Vici Gaming, they've got SYDM. I believe that they've used some different names here, but I believe FY is actually YXY, one of their support players, and SYDM is actually San Diego. So if anyone's wondering, no, they haven't made any roster changes. They're just using a couple slightly different names. So if we get confused, that is why. But SYDM has been an X factor for them in the G League, but I didn't watch them in the GST Challenge, and from you, of course, casting those games, it sounds like it really was the CTY show. One of his signature heroes picked up here, the Lone Druid. Obviously, I think his #1 hero has been the Anti-Mage, but they opt not to go for it this game, which I find interesting. Perhaps part of that, there's a Shadow Demon pick on the enemy team and a Darkseer. That's 3 potential Anti-Mage copies for Rilimin. But in the laning phase, Anti-Mage can do reasonably well against Darkseer with a little bit of help. So clearly, Vici Gaming looking towards the mid-game, looking towards those bigger clashes, and just not wanting to deal with 3 Anti-Mages on the enemy team.
Yeah, Lone Druid is generally an invitation to a offensive trialing from RMM, saying, I mean, that hero doesn't really provide too much, aside from the random bear harass, but Keeper of Light is a really saying stop sign to that one, because Illuminate is something you can't really take head on, after another. It's just simply too much. And that alone, it's going to give Sanking a lot of room to grow as a hero, because he's not that good level 1 or 2, but if you give him that level 5 and the boots of speed, he becomes a very powerful hero, threatening double Burrow Shrek in team fights. He's really good if you give him the start that he wants.
Yeah, as for Rilimin, lots of versatility for them. They can go aggressive trialing. Darkseer's great for that. He can solo, obviously. They can run a safe lane, Shadow Demon plus carry. Darkseer as a solo off lane, or even could go mid, although this game with the Queen of Pain pick, we imagine it's either an offensive trialing with him or getting one of those 2 solos. Can even be thrown in the jungle. So basically nothing determined for the lanes for either team right now. If Vici Gaming want to play with a bit of Invictus Gaming flavor, we could see them go for a Windrunner, and something IG loves to run. The Keeper of the Light, Sand King, Windrunner, Tri-Lane. Incredibly strong. You can muscle the tower down quite early. Constant pressure on the lane makes it hard for the enemy carry to farm under the tower. And of course, if you leave the lane or you try to put your carry somewhere else, well, then you're losing your quick two towers in the safe lane. At least one, and then Windrunner could just be parked there and free farming. So I like the way Vici Gaming's opened their draft. They could do whatever they want. Play defensively, go aggressive. Lone Druid, of course, very versatile. But generally, it's been CTY playing this one for the team. I think there was one game where SYDM played it in the off lane, but not something they do very often.
I mean, they still could definitely do it. I mean, CTY has that snowball hero Shadow Fiend, which he went,
10
I
seconds
think,
remaining.
Shadow Blade into Mask of Madness and just roam all over the map and start
5
killing support.
seconds remaining.
Hey, and this could be the setup that he wants and have that Lone Druid as quote-unquote a backup factor in a sense. But for now, RMM looking to ban out those carries because Lone Druid, although a very, very powerful carry himself, never really play as the only sole carry for the team. So let's see if Vici Gaming is going to be picking up another carry for CTY, or in fact, he will be playing the Lone Druid himself.
Yeah, as for Vici Gaming, I mean, prediction, of course, is it's a CTY launcher. But enough about that, Lumi. I think talking more about Rilimin's draft, well, they, since Vici Gaming, don't have any solos yet. Maybe the Lone Druid is the solo, but even then, could very well be a protected defensive tri-lane. And noticing that, they're going to ban out Weaver, Clockwork, who don't have to be solos, but generally are played as such. And two annoying heroes for, say, a
10
Darkseer to lane against, because Darkseer's never going to be able to kill them. He can still get his farm, but he's not going to be able to push
5
down the tower too
seconds
easily
remaining.
with the constant ability to just cog and basically deny the Darkseer. The tower dives, and of course Weaver pretty elusive against the lack of stun. So I think smart bans, and over on the side of Vici Gaming, smart bans from them as well, banning out the combo heroes for the Shadow Demon, the Leshrac, the Lina, and then the strong tri-lane carry in the Juggernaut, who actually is a quite suitable sort of 2 or even 3 position utility pushing carry as opposed to a true hard carry. I think the bans from both sides really make quite a bit of sense.
Yep, very, very standard bans, and Jakiro is going to be the pickup here for the Radiant side, and there's that Shadow Fiend, so we are going to see CTY trying to snowball out of control. It's really one of Vici Gaming's go-to hero, and it's going to be very important for the Radiant team to shut that down. They cannot allow the Shadow Fiend to get going quick, and having a Shadow Demon opening into an Ice Path Dual Breath, that's a pretty impressive way if you want to tackle that tri-lane versus tri-lane, but I really don't think you could do it against Keeper of Light.
Sure, there's been some slight nerfs to Illuminate, but
10 seconds
like we've talked about,
remaining.
Lumi, it's still Illuminate. It's still a bitch and a half to fight against, and
5 seconds
they have a
remaining.
decent tri-lane with Jakiro, Shadow Demon, and Darkseer if they wanted to run that, but a little light on damage. I don't see it happening, and the issue is going to be if you run that tri-lane, who's going to lane against Lone Druid? Right now, they have nothing that can shut him down. So I like the Shadow Fiend pick and going for it later because they pick such a strong solo in the Lone Druid and such a dominant tri-lane support and a Keeper of the Light. It means that Rilimin, they have to find a way to deal with Lone Druid, and if they don't do so, he'll get farm. If they focus on Shadow Fiend, the Lone Druid will have a good time, but if they focus the other way around and they try to shut the Lone Druid down, then Shadow Fiend's going to have a good time. So by starting with really strong laning heroes, Keeper of the Light and the Lone Druid, they open themselves up later on for a Shadow Fiend pick that can't easily be punished. I think it's a very smart way to draft the hero.
And like there's a very, very powerful tri-lane hero, whether he's going to be playing the carry or support, but judging from this lineup, he is going to be played as a carry. So I think that's a hero that can perhaps take on the Keeper of Light, especially if you catch him a little bit out of position, but I really don't think so. And then we're going to see Wow, XTT playing the Silencer. I'm not exactly sure what the Silencer pick really is about, but I guess it's to really shut down the Darkseer. Darkseer likes to search himself, run and drop the wall and vacuum. And that's a very precise combo that if you drop a global on top, you get it cancel, or you prevent the follow-up of the Ice Path, you prevent the follow-up of Sonic Wave. I really like that hero, and I think he's going to do a lot of work in this particular game.
What I like about it is it's an XTT silencer. XTT, usually one of the first 3, either the second or the third position for this team. I imagine he'll be going mid, and SYDM's going to be taking that off lane. We'll probably see the CTY defensive tri-lane with the Shadow Fiend pick. I hate support silencer. I think it's one of the most useless supports in the game in like 95% of cases, and I think the statistics bear me out. At least anecdotally, I've probably cast 8 of those games, and I think the team with support silencer has lost every single one. But we won't see it this game, Lumi. It looks like it's probably going to be a solo mid silencer, to be honest, and that's a hard matchup for Queen of Pain. She has ways, of course, to remove Curse of the Silent with Blink relatively easily, as well as the new, and I always forget the name of the spell, Last Word, but it just does so much damage. He's a bit vulnerable to ganks, but because they have Lone Druid and the Shadow Fiend, these two heroes that really are going to love if they can get some farm, I don't know how much pressure they're really going to have to put on the Silencer. Sure, they can do it, maybe they kill him, but then it means Shadow Fiend's free farming, Lone Druid's probably going to be a good time. So, in a way, it's basically a third core for a lineup that is a very strong laning stage, and I think just reinforces what they were already trying to do with the draft.
Yeah, the silencer solo mid definitely has its issues though. He doesn't push the lane well, which he kind of gets bullied by Queen of Pain. Queen of Pain could push out the lane, grab the runes freely, or gank and not really get punished because silencer, well, he's not exactly a great pusher. He's not going to knock down a tier 1 tower. Silencer can't really gank himself. I mean, he does have last word, which is high damaging, but it's not an instant damage nuke, which you sometimes kind of need. So you look towards that silencer, basically will park his butt on the mid lane and press global whenever his allies needs it, and hopefully will passively win the lane by harassing Queen of Pain. But Queen of Pain is going to be left to her own devices, whether she wants to gank or roam or do whatever else she wants. But for now, XCT playing that silencer. We're going to have CTY playing that Shadow Fiend, FY playing the Keeper of the Light. We have San Diego going on the off-lane Lone Druid, and last but not least, Sand King being handled by Finra.
Yeah, so that pretty much covers Vici Gaming as I, well, belatedly are going to check them out. Actually, it's going to be, looks like SYDM's going mid on the Lone Druid, so aggressive tri-laning with this silencer. Okay, not a lane I expected, but we can talk about silencer's strength in the tri-lane in a moment. I imagine we'll see some Curse of the Silent from him, at least at some point. But before we do that, Lumi, let's introduce Rilimin, your Oceanic upstarts. Formerly Famofu's Throws fan club with some roster changes. No longer is Famofu part of this team. They are Rilimin. Yumu Kampaku, I think this is their new player, played the Queen of Pain Vodki on the Jakiro. He had some great Rubik play earlier in the G1 League Phase 1 qualifier. Kux, the hard carry on the Gyrocopter. T-Duck playing that Darkseer. Starting with the Ion Shell off the bat will be just jungling, it appears. And Lippy on the Shadow Demon. So aggressive trialing with Silencer with Keeper of the Light to keep the mana flowing. What do you make of this?
I mean, if he's going to be going for the Curse of the Silence build, I don't think it will be too good against the Radiant build, Radiant side, because Flat Cannon will easily take that one off. Shadow Poison will easily take that one off, and Jakiro, well, hopefully he stays back. And if he needs to drop an Ice Path, well, it's not exactly a big deal. So I'm looking, actually, it's going to be a Last Word build from a Silencer. And to be honest, Last Word's pretty crap in the tri-lane. Again, it doesn't stun, it doesn't disable. It's sort of disabled, but that disable comes in whenever the Radiant side feels like, whether they want to silence themselves quick or whether they want to run out of the range and then gets disarmed, which again, it's not exactly the biggest deal. So it's only really useful in really cluster team fight where spells need to be dropped instantly. And Finra bricks this quite quickly by dropping that Observer Ward.
They will block the pole camp. This was not spotted by the Radiant as he had an Invis rune. The one concern is Rilimin. I think they were actually expecting a little more of a... I think they're expecting more like we were. Just, you know, that defensive tri-lane run the Lone Druid as the offlane. As we see wards deployed towards the top river. Obviously, you don't need that ward to deal with Shadow Fiend. So they're going to be surprised by this tri-lane. Obviously, they see it now, but they don't have wards up. Burrow Strike off the bat on a Kux. Illuminate being channeled. Disruption was there at the perfect moment. Now the disconnect from Lone Druid. I don't think it would have been First Blood, as Last Word, I believe, had already procced at that point. Or maybe not, but either way, the disruption definitely going to save him. So nice play by Lippy. But Rilimin, they're a little bit blindsided. They will deward the camp now, but they don't have much vision up. We could see Keeper of the Light be a nuisance in the jungle, so it's going to be up to Lippy to get some good vision of that Keeper up. If you don't have it, the tri-lane gets a lot harder.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they got blindsided is not exactly the big deal because, to me, I think they got the better matchup. Sure, Queen of Pain is not exactly going to have a field day on the mid lane against San Diego, but Darkseer versus Shadow Fiend, you'll take that matchup any day. And of course, this particular tri-lane, Silencer's got to basically prove himself that he's going to work. Now, with that said, Keeper of Light is still a beast in terms of tri-lane, but it's also a Sand King that's not going to get too much level. He's not going to get too much farm. They don't really benefit from this tri-lane. You can't smoke off and gank mid because, well, first you're trying to gank a Queen of Pain, and secondly, you don't have smoke, and third, you have a level 1 Sand King Burrow Strike. So I really dislike the way that Vici Gaming laned this. I think it should be Keeper, Shadow Fiend, Sand King up top. You win the tri-lane if it's the heads-on, or if they don't challenge you in the tri-lane, your Sand King gets to pull, your Shadow Fiend gets to farm, and then you throw your San Diego Lone Druid to the Wolves. Big deal, and then you have your Silencer far mid.
And here's the other thing. It delays the global. The global is going to be much slower. Sand King is your only initiating stun, and he's going to be under-leveled.
Yeah.
And most likely, unless they get a bunch of kills, which, like you talked about, they don't have a great killing tri-lane. They do have some kill potential, but with good position, and from the Shadow Demon and the Gyro, I don't think we'll be seen it happen. I'm inclined to agree with you, and that's why I was totally kind of surprised. Obviously, Rilimin wasn't expecting this either, because they placed that Observer Ward top, which is not going to do a whole lot for them, given that there's an offensive tri-lane. It could work. There's some synergy between these two heroes. The main thing is Vici Gaming can really put a lot of harassment on this Gyrocopter, but T-Duck potentially can really snowball. He can get a fast mechanism. CTY was pulled, so he'll have an okay time. He's actually sitting on a lot of regen right now, but missing a few last hits here and there under the tower. Not quite his flawless farm, but still pretty damn good. I'm sure it'll pick... Well, for a Shadow Fiend, last hit under his tower without an early Wraith ban, it's pretty damn decent. I imagine we'll see it pick up, but... a matchup where maybe T-Duck looks to dive him, a little bit dangerous to do so. One Shadow Fiend is that level 2, level 3 raise. You can die even from mostly full HP if you get hit by the raises, so probably we'll just see T-Duck creep skipping and constantly putting pressure on this lane.
Yeah, and let's see if T-Duck does have that farm that Brax did, basically farming in the lane, farming in jungle.
Oh, he's doing it now. Very smart.
Exactly what he needs to do to basically race ahead and get that quick mega or pipe or whatever he thinks he needs. It looks like they're going to challenge this pool, and this is why Keeper of Light is one of the best hero in a tri lane, one of the best hero period, because if he wants to offensive tri lane, looks like they're going to make a go. Ice Path is going to follow through here on XTT. Where's the Rocket Barrage? Looks like the Creed Wave is taking a big part of that. Illuminate's going to fire to ward him away. Gyrocopter can't really do too much. Finra is going to be on the run. Another Ice Path. Long range, low cooldown, one of the more broken early game spell, but it doesn't do too much damage. A couple more right clicks, Sandstorm is going to be used. He's on the run, he's so slow. Another Ice Path should be able to do it. He's not going to go for it, going for the double damage rune. And that's going to be it for the engagement.
Wow, I really thought they would have him there, but it seemed like Kux had... I don't think he was blocked, he was sitting here, just trying to splash Flat Cannon through. They initiated on what? Oh, backstab mid lane. Yumo Kampaku, this is a risky dive against the lone druid. That bear could just do a lot of additional damage with the two sources. In the end, not going to commit to the gank, but putting the pressure on. And this mid lane compared to Pycat's lone druid, boy, he was like 12 and 12 against a decent ranged mid. This game, well, having a bit of a tougher time sitting. Actually having an awful time. Say 4-2, first blood, gonna be Lubby. Gets picked off at the full camp, and now the pull gonna be stolen as well. So, Rilimin, little miscoordination. I mean, the big thing for me was there wasn't proper focus fire bottom. Kux was chasing one way while the rest of the team was chasing Sand King the other, and they miss a first blood and then it gets turned around on them.
Yeah, I thought the trialing was actually going quite well for the Radiant side, and then they really messed it up just there, and then now the advantage is all back to Vici Gaming, which they, in my opinion, needed that advantage. But back in the mid lane, though, this lone druid is just having a horrible time. He can't even get the resummon off because the bear was taking poison damage. So he, damage is taken, you can't resummon. 100 free goes to the Quap, which, well, she will definitely take it.
The good news, though, is CTY's having a ball. Up to 20 and 3, now accelerating his farm. Barely behind our Darkseer, who has to be careful. T-Duck trying to get in range with double Ion Shell. I mean, Shadow Fiend's a hero that you can only really dive him if you either have stuns or you have a good ability to dodge his raises. Sure, you have Surge, but this is CTY, a strong Shadow Fiend player, a player who was impressive earlier, and if you dive and get triple raised, you're almost certainly going to die because you won't have creep support. So instead, I think T-Duck just playing the smart, creep skipping, not going to be able to stop our Shadow Fiend from CTY from farming. Would like to see him continue to do those pulls, though. For some reason, choosing to fight closer to the lane, and that's going to allow CTY to put the harassment on him, something that he really should look to avoid in the future. As once again, mid lane, SYDM just getting trashed in this lane. I mean, I've never seen a lone druid of this much trouble versus a Queen of Pain.
I mean, Queen of Pain's decision to go level 2 Shadow Strike, which is not something we see too often, really is taking San Diego's region. I mean, he really wants to get up to his Tranquil Boots, but you gotta be careful about Tranquil Boots nowadays, because when that thing breaks, you're losing a lot of movement speeds, which is definitely an issue when you're up against a Queen of Pain. Queen of Pain is playing rather well, using that Bottle Crow to take those mana and making sure that he's continuously Shadow Striking San Diego.
Oh, so it looks like you can actually use Disruption to dodge the damage from Last Word, which makes that silencer fairly useless. But CTY on the hunt, he's going to tango through here, looking for T-Duck. Still chasing, has his Tranquil Boots up, he's faster, he needs a double raise, he's got to get in range for that first raise, then the second, nails it, and picks up a solo kill. And that's sort of what I was talking about, just with the power of those raises to burst a hero like Darkseer down. But that was not what I expected, which is the Tranquil Boots running him down. I mean, I thought we'd see the tower dive and then the kill, but not that. Wow, nice play.
Well, we'll talk about that gank later on, as again, the disruption making, a little bit untimed, and it looks like San Diego, or not San Diego, Gyrocopter a little bit issue, but Sand King is the first one that dies to tower. Oh, big Illuminate, but he's actually fine because he didn't channel enough. Rocket's gonna fly through it, and looks like Lippy trying to clear it up. Meanwhile, Twin Head's gonna find himself, XTY, Ice Path is gonna get used back and forth. Nothing yet. Ice Pap is going to hit on FY, but they really can't get that kill. Looks like Curse is also taken. Curse, in my opinion, one of the worst spells in the game. If you don't max it and use it quick, well, right now 4 levels in, only a single point.
Well, it's like you talked about. I mean, Gyrocopter can easily remove that Curse of the Silence. Sure, it's going to proc last word, but you know, I guess that's something that you just have to live with. That maybe they're better off just trying to avoid the last word damage, taking a little curse damage here and there. But there's lots of, you know, Ice Path really not that expensive in terms of mana cost. Shadow Demon has to point Shadow Poison, so we'll see. 1 point in Curse is not the biggest loss in the world, though. Not a huge investment for him, and he's got Keeper of the Light, so spamming any spell is really no problem for this tri-lane. I think they're in good shape for Vici Gaming, mainly because CTY is snowballing. I mean, gets a solo kill in T-Duck, now zoning him off the lane. Gonna hit the first raise, barely missing the second. And top lane is just not safe anymore, forcing the TP in from a hasted Queen of Pain, who's Ion Shelled up, looking to dive this tower. This will be potentially double Ion Shell. This may be a kill. Where's the backup? Are there any TP scrolls? There are, but not on heroes who can fully punish a Queen of Pain. No Sand King, but that'll actually be enough to drive this Queen of Pain back, so forcing the TP, but that's pretty much it.
I'm not sure why exactly she's running. She is level 7, unfortunately, because she has 2 point into Shadow Shrike. Don't have the last point of Queen of Pain. Perhaps that's why she really can't think she could take that fight.
Bottom lane.
On the bot lane, though, they're making go, realizing a teleportation has already run top. Brimwell, nice Burrow Strike out of there, and that should be fine, bringing them away. It looks like XTT turning around to take the fight. The Rocket's gaining quickly, but just no follow-up spells there either. A lot of early game action, not much kill. One thing I do want to point out is that earlier we saw the similar matchup between Darkseer and Invoker. The big difference between Invoker and Shadow Fiend is that, well, Shadow Fiend could easily decimate that creep wave with a couple of raises, so that Iron Shell never really get that push. Because of that, Shadow Fiend could easily get off of this lane and start challenging Darkseer and prevent him from doing the backstab or the creep skip, and that's really slowing Darkseer's farm quite a bit.
I gotta say, I'm really worried for Rilimin right now. Look at how fat CTY is. 3,400 net worth. We're 8 minutes in. He's gonna have a Shadow Blade by like maybe the 11 or 12 minute mark, I would say, at the rate he's going. Perhaps even sooner than that. And a Shadow Blade this early, look at Rilimin. They're all food. Even a hero like Queen of Pain can be brought down if you hit those 2 raises, catch her before, while her blink is on cooldown, something like that, and he's just gonna keep on pressuring this tower. A matchup that isn't easy for the Darkseer to shut down the Shadow Fiend when he was pulled as heavily as he was, but to give up the solo kill, it just really hurt him here, and especially with the failed gank from the Queen of Pain top, that basically lets your lone Druid back into the lane, and now we see he's quite caught up in farm. He was sitting at like 4 CS to 16, now it's 24 to 33, which is not nearly as bad, and also level 7, so now not an easy kill. The tri-lane, back and forth, a little bit of an advantage for Vici Gaming, I feel, just because it's an offensive tri-lane and they've been stealing the pull, but relatively even, but the X factor is really looking like it's going to be CTY right now.
I mean, back in the mid lane, post level 5, Lone Druid, really, you gotta respect the Entangle, because if you Entangle, you basically lose half your HP instantly. So that really is gonna slow down the harass coming in from the Lone Druid, or from the Queen of Pain. Also, because he's got level 6 and Tranquil Boots, you're really never gonna harass him, out-harass him. Look, he's actually dropping Shadow Strikes at the Bear, which I think you're doing it wrong if that's the case.
Too bad.
Well, it's like, what else can you do? You can't go on the hero because he's got 1 billion HP in armor, 13 armor right now, and quite tanky at that. The Bear's something you could actually chip away at, but the problem is you're not driving SYDM out of the lane. Maybe he's got to resummon his Bear. And top lane, T-Duck cannot even get past the creep wave to creep skip anymore, nor is it really safe to do so any longer, because we're at a point where Sand King has a TP, Sand King will have his boots soon. You've got to be worried about that global silence coming out soon, potentially getting you caught behind enemy lines, and of course, oh, we're going in now with the Burrow Strike to start, but the disruption here, the call down to follow through, looks like Fenrir is in a world of trouble. He's still alive, he will go down to that final Shadow Poison, actually to the Jakiro burn damage from Dual Breath. But still, no pressure on the Shadow Fiend, and looks like that was really the plan for Vici Gaming, was run this aggressive tri-lane. We don't really care how it goes. We think we'll do well with Keeper, but we make sure that CTY gets a 1v1 matchup he can do well in, and it's paying off right now.
I mean, again, that aggressive tri-lane, in my opinion, right now, don't need to be playing aggressive, and they shouldn't be playing aggressive. CTY's dominating that lane up top. Iron Shell can't even let T-Duck farm, because look at the damage on Shadow Fiend. He's over 150. He could just deny every single creep in the lane from that Iron Shell. Same thing on the mid lane, a passive victory here for San Diego. So all the bot lane literally needs to do is not throw, and they would be fine. So don't really need to initiate or give up those free kills.
Oh no, Burrow Strike misses. That would have been death for T-Duck. But Fenrir only has the level 2 Burrow. Now the TP out. Should be able to get away in time.
And that's fine, right? They don't get the kill, but CTY getting free farm. He's got that Shadow Amulet on his stash. And once that the Shadow breaks out, he doesn't even need to leave the lane. He can keep farming and basically once in a while just go for those passive free kills on that Shadow, on the Darkseer. Just sneak up behind him, right-click a couple times, and raise for the finish.
Yeah, anybody will be an easy kill for him. Even a hero like Darkseer, you could just kill him before he's able to surge away, unless he's at full HP and gets the surge off immediately. And it's only a level 1 surge, which doesn't last forever. Gonna look at the tower deny here, but the raises doesn't even need the raise. It's just too much damage. Now driving T-Duck backwards. They're dual laning bottom, and it's working for the moment. They'll go in on XTT now. I think he's got the global online. He does. Will he pop it? Too late. He will pop it, actually. Drops anyway. They don't really get a trade for that, so nice work by Rilimin at least baiting out the global. I think that should have just been held on to for a rainy day. But in the end, Shadowblade is still out. 11.5 minutes in, right on cue. Pretty much as fast as you can look at a Shadowblade. And I mean, he's sitting almost 7 CS a minute.
Yeah,
you said he needs the snowball. This is a little bit more. This is an avalanche coming the way of Rilimin.
This is actually a pretty standard CTY. This is what I mean by snowball. He goes out of control. Back in the mid lane, San Diego takes down a tier 1 tower by himself. Again, Queen of Pain really can't too much about that. I thought XTT dropping that global is kind of a big misplay, as there's a gank they would want global now, don't have global, and because of that, solo mid's gonna drop down here. Well, they're gonna try, still very tanky, still looking for the kill. San Diego gonna get the entangle off. There's that 1 kill, and CTY has joined the fray. There's a 2nd kill. Well, they didn't need global.
He missed a raise, but it's okay. He's got tranquil boots. Oh, I thought he could have dove that, but I think he's a little bit worried about additional TPs and just settles for the 1 kill in the end. Yeah, they didn't even need global there. That's, I mean, sure, Lone Jura might have lived, but still, the trade's worth it in the end.
Yep. So CTY gonna happily go back up top. There's a regen root he just picked up. And look at these wards coming in. I love this deep ward in the Radiant tier 2 tower on the top. One of the best way to actually get a kill to stop that Shadow Fiend, TP in, smoke gank, and try to stop him. That prevents it either. I mean, right now Vici Gaming showing some world-class play, getting the early lead, maintaining that early lead, and Shadow Fiend's one of those carries. Unlike other carries, just go solo kill, and basically you really can't stop that unless you kind of get a smart counter gank or gank him in the first place.
And I think a lot of the way this game's developed, it's CTY's individual play, it's the misplay top lane for the Darkseer, but the bigger thing for me was just that Rilimin, frankly, was not prepared for an offensive tri-lane. They were placing wards top, they showed up to the lane late, they weren't able to really prevent Vici Gaming from getting into the lane, and that makes your tri-lane harder, and it's already going to be tough just because there's a Keeper of the Light in the enemy tri-lane. I think a lane that Rilimin still could have done a bit better in, but ultimately just weren't prepared for it, didn't really have the wards they needed, and unfortunately, CTY getting that solo kill. I mean, that's really all they needed, because it was okay for their Lone Druid even to lose mid, and for a while he was, because he's Lone Druid. He doesn't need to have a powerful start. Shadow Fiend is the one who does. That's what CTY gets, and now he's on a roll. Bottom lane, Global is popped right as they go in, and this one will be paying off, will save his life.
Again, and that's fine. Ooh, looks like Shadow Fiend in a little bit trouble up top. There's a Dust, Queen of Pain's on the case right now, but here comes the Record Soul return race, and look at how low Queen of Pain was.
She had 1 HP. She actually had 1 HP.
She actually had 1 HP?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if I've ever actually seen 1 HP, but there you go.
I mean, you can't really blame luck or unlucky. If there's some right clicks involved, then you say min-max damage, but that was all spell damage, so I guess very, very good break still for Queen of Pain getting that 1 kill and stopping CTY. Killing the Shadow Fiend is pretty big because he's going to have to spend the first minute after respawning basically to recollect those souls.
Yeah, a hero that you really want to shut down, but he's farmed enough that he can just stack a few camps, do it relatively quickly. I think they're still in decent shape in spite of that death. And the nice thing is, well, you have Lone Druid, so he may not be that farm, but he's going to show up with a Cloak or in a Basilius, and he'll just start basically 4-manning with his team. It'll most likely be a 4-protect-1 with CTY just pushing out, farming one side of the map. Then we'll see this Lone Druid just grouping up with his team. Not really playing as a hard carry Lone Druid, just kind of a beat shield, basically, and that's what we'll see. CTY TP's top, continues to farm pretty much exactly as expected, and solid play overall from Vici Gaming so far. It's going to be hard for Rilimin. They're going to try and fight. T-Duck surges in, looks for the vacuum, finds it, but a 2-hero burrow strike. Beautiful from Fenrir. Now the Curse of the Silent doing big damage. Additional last word thrown out. This is going to pop soon. T-Duck going to drop to this last word damage. Queen of Pain ult flies out. T-Dog actually still alive through it all. Burrow striking forward. Queen of Pain to fall. The bear taking some damage. Still manning up. Still fighting. A secondary Illuminate. What a disrupt by Lippy. Keeping him alive. I don't know if it would have killed him. Would have been close. She blinks forward. One San Diego. SYDM dies to the poison. But now Yumu trapped in the trees. He'll be the counter kill. And meanwhile, CTY on an island just pushing top lane. Attempted trade from Gyro. But Gyro with Tranquil boots Arena Basilius does not push like a Shadow Fiend with Treads, Aquila, and a Shadow Blade.
And of course, those raises just mowing down creep wave after creep wave. CTY gonna get this tier 2 with the... Oh, looks like somebody's gonna challenge it, but he does not care. He's actually gonna start fighting T-Duck right now. Gotta be careful, or he's gonna get roasted like a Beijing duck. But no, looks like a little bit of reinforcement from Gyrocopter. On the bot push, though, I think it shows you the inexperience of Vici Gaming. There's no reason they needed to really hardcore push that, especially with Global Silence on cooldown. Global Silence was absolutely necessary there with Queen of Pain, Darkseer charging you like that. I do want to say though, Last Word is still very, very helpful against a spell like or a hero like Darkseer or Queen of Pain because they really want to cast multiple spells throughout the team fight, and that long duration silence after first spell is being casted is very, very helpful.
Yeah, he was able to live. The last word damage wasn't quite enough to bring him down, but it got him out of the fight, basically. That's the big thing. And the beauty of the way that Vici Gaming is playing is however many mistakes they're making, they're fighting while Darkseer is not level 12 or even level 11. So T-Duck will probably see him just take 2 points of wall and sit in that level 1 surge, but doesn't have the wall yet. Once he gets the wall, it'll be a little more difficult for Vici Gaming for some time to actually force the fight. So I think it was a good opportunity for them to apply pressure. I agree with you, though. Didn't need to commit the way that they did. Could have just sieged with the bear. But hey, they're going Roshan now, I think. No, maybe not. Just going to scout the river out a little bit. But posturing towards Roshan with a Shadow Fiend with this classic Mask of Madness Shadow Blade. Rosh is going to melt. Yeah,
all they need to do is basically have the Baron tank, and Shadow Fiend by himself could actually take it, and basically the rest of the team will create space. Looks like the Lone Druid hero, as well as the Spear, is going to walk in. There's a scout. Well, they know it's going to be happening, but there's really nothing they can do, especially not through a global. As I say that, though, dude's got no mana. Well,
it's too late. They have level 1. They have level 1 wall on T-Duck. They actually want to fight. There's no way they can fight this. Rosh is already going to be dead. Well, maybe they're going to try. Let's see. But Shadow Fiend with 2 lives. Going to be hard to actually take this engagement. And it looks like they'll back off.
Force now teleported back top. Again, really nobody could challenge his farm at this point. You really need Queen of Pain with a Scythe of Ice or at least an Orchid to really stop that. He blinks forward here against the Quap, or against the Keeper, but Burrow Strike will ward him back off.
And now we're going to settle into a rhythm that will favor Vici Gaming, which is that we can have our Lone Druid and our Shadow Fiend pushing one side of the map, and then in the meantime, Keeper of the Light, Sandking could easily defend. Actually, Phase Boot's the choice for Fenrir because he's got that Keeper of the Light, doesn't need the additional mana. Maybe Treads would have been the other option, but besides just a little bit of extra move speed will suit him just fine. And they can defend with Keeper. Other 2 carries can push and farm all over the place. And Lone Druid, and especially CTY, push very, very quickly. So the way the rhythm is developing really is going to favor Vici Gaming because Rilimin just aren't going to be able to counter their split push quickly enough.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, as a caster, we got to really figure out what exactly the Radiant needed to use. Global gets dropped.
Oh, they wanted to get this kill on Queen of Pain. That's why it was dropped, but it looks like CTY didn't quite have the opening he hoped for. He was thinking about a Requiem, canceled the channel, went for the auto attack. I believe if he had just been a little more patient, actually cast the Requiem, and then the silence came out, with the slow and the Mask of Madness, Lothar's Edge, you should be able to bring him down, but a bit of a misplay there. Meanwhile, bottom lane, San Diego trying to run away, but here comes the Burrow Strike. Burrow Strike's into an Ice Wall, now into the cooldown. Sentry once deployed, force staffing Fenrir, trying to get him out to safety, but here comes CTY. Oh boy, this is gonna hurt. This big, bad Shadow Fiend cleans up one, wants some more, and the chase is now on. The TP's got to happen. You aren't outrunning CTY. He's got Mask of Madness Shadow Blade. He's virtually max move speed. Look at him go. Look at him just hulk down the lane, looking for that Shadow Blade. Not using it yet. Wants to wait until after he gets disrupted. He will be disrupted now. Now going to be cursed, but there's your last word. Basically one auto attack. Lippy will die to this. He might die anyway. Yep, he will. He goes down. And, well, they can't really force fights the way that they're doing, unfortunately.
I don't think they could force fight. I don't think they could really react well to fight, because if you never force a fight, that global is always going to be in reserve. So Vici Gaming, it seems like they cannot lose this without some big throw. Although with that said, Vici Gaming did have a huge throw against MEFC, I believe. I think I even called them the EG of China at one point during that humongous throw. It was bad. It was
strong words.
Really bad.
They're a young team. They're an inexperienced team, and I guess that's part of the growing pains. So we'll see if it happens here. But This is a big, big lead.
Vici Gaming just hunting. He's not gonna Rec Room under that. That's a free kill.
There's a BKB on Cox. Uh-oh, but he's already too low. He's dead.
Yeah, BKB drained down the charge as well. Down the drain as well.
That's a big win. Getting rid of that 10-second BKB charge, putting your gyrocopter on the sidelines at CTY up to 3.4k. I imagine maybe we'll see the Manta style, but most likely even something just like a butterfly, just to allow him to man up in these fights. Potentially the BKB. Whatever he wants, he can have it now, and he's really, really fat.
So notice about the Shadow Fiend, a lot of, I mean, if this was the old Tranquil boost, you keep your Tranquil for, as long as you even want. This new Tranquil boost, it's really, it really encourages you to swap it away because, again, you don't want to lose movement speed in the middle of a team fight. So, well, he goes for treads, which is something that quite normal for a Shadow Fiend.
It actually works pretty well on an agility hero because, of course, you can just change it into Rin of Aquila, which is a pretty suitable item for someone like Shadow Fiend. Benefits from the armor, benefits a little bit from the mana regen, and relatively cost efficient, so I think it's a pretty optimal build. Uh-oh, 3-hero Burrow Strike. That's not a good way to start the fight. There's no follow-up yet, but I imagine CTY is going to be heading this way. Meanwhile, Queen of Pain ult gets dropped. There's your global. Fenrir is still alive. He's got another Burrow Strike. He gets mech'd up. I can't hear anything, but I see CTY just clearing out some illusions. They are going to back off. Darkseer Wall is available. It's level 2, but with the Sieges of the Immortal not yet quite done. They've got 2 minutes left, maybe a minute and a half. They're looking at the tier 2 bottom. And I don't know that Rilimin can defend this. Darkseer heading back to base as fast as he can. T-Duck wants to fight this, but they've already given up the position. They're going to have to back up down the hill as CTY just mauls away at this tower. Not long for this world, I feel. In you go, the spam driving the supports back, and this will be a tier 2, most likely falling. They really want to fight with the vacuum into call down combo. BKB up on CTY, who will choose that, so going for some survivability now. Too late, tower's dead, but that's a vacuum on 3, an ice path as well. In comes the BKB from Gyrocopter, but it's CTY, who we want to watch as he goes to work. 2 on the sidelines, more to follow. Triple, essentially, in terms of the damage done, but 3 kills spread across the team, and now they look to break high ground. No wall was even used there.
Well, I think he was a little bit too slow on that. Oh no, he's gonna try to run, but 2 right clicks from CTY. They're completely dead. Of course, nice vacuum to Ice Path combo. A good start, especially with the global down. I think that's really why they want to take that fight. They're thinking to themselves, we're never actually gonna win a team fight when the global's online, so we just have to take a risk. We're down so far. What is there to lose? I mean, the game is basically lost at this point. We just have to take advantage of the global being down and go for it. Didn't work out, well, game 2.
Yeah, there's coming back from this. I don't see any way for Vici Gaming to throw this one. The gold graph is basically telling the tale at this point. They're up by about 14k, 10k experience, or 14k gold, 10k experience, and I'm not convinced about the offensive tri-lane, but I liked the fact that they did one just to give CTY that 1v1 matchup because, I mean, he just showed his prowess in that situation. Shadow Fiend versus Darkseer, I would say Shadow Fiend actually does pretty well against him when he's pulled, but still, I mean, to get a solo kill, not something you would ever expect in general, and now he's looking to go mid. Gonna go on Lippy right out of vision of the tower, so there won't be any sort of disruption to save him. Now the Requiem channel with the slow, going through the BKB of Cox, who tries to run, tries to hide, no escape. This terror going forward, triple for CTY. Can he get the Ultra? He's got that Shadow Blade. He's got that Mask Amandus. Actually might even die here. Aegis of the Immortals down. There's your Queen of Pain ult. Burrow striking through. Nice BKB timing from Yumoku. Once one. We'll get Fenrir. Looks like he might not get CTY or XTT, though, as they are able to escape. There's your Surge in. Now the Blink. Going for XTT. Pops the Global again. Looks like he will live. And that's going to be the end of the aggression for the moment. So they get racks, they do some damage mid, they get an additional kill of Gyrocopter, who's just...
Shadow Fiend finds regen. I just want to point that out.
Really? CTY? Come on.
He's going to come back and demolish this Twin-Head Dragon. Or
Lippy.
Not.
Poor Lippy. I guess...
Should have went for the THD. But, man, sometimes you be good and sometimes you be lucky. And CTY...
Is both.
Yeah. It really is both.
Very true. And well, heading into game 2, I don't really feel the picks were the reason Vici Gaming is winning this game. I just feel like it really came down to the individual play of CTY, and I mean some decent team decision making, but let's be honest, quite a few mistakes from Rilimin.
Quite a bit of mistake from both sides here. XTT, in my opinion, not impressive performance on Silencer. I know I hawk him on quite a bit because I feel like Silencer is one of those heroes that is so powerful. Global Silence, in my opinion, one of the best 5 ultimates in the game, but also one of the most difficult ultimate to use because on paper it doesn't actually do any damage. It's not slow, it's not stun, it's not damage. It's just one of those quote-unquote positional play kind of thing. And It's if you press it on the right time, it's the best ultimate in the game. If you don't, it's one of the worst. So, you know,
Well,
I want to see more silencer. So,
yeah, it's a very situational pick, and it's just so much harder to execute. Like, because you can just go in, drop a big RP, and, well, as long as you hit a couple heroes, that was a good RP. 99% of the time. Cucks, maybe looking to die here. No crit yet for CTY, so he'll live, but... I mean, whereas you look at Global Silence, like you're saying, it's very hard to find the right opening. And I gotta agree with you, I mean, I felt like his globals didn't accomplish too much, but CTY just got so fat so quickly that basically just pressing R at any point during a fight was gonna be enough.
yeah, I completely agree. So the CTY show continues. So maybe look towards banning the Shadow Fiend for next game, but CTY has a lot more heroes aside from that one. There's the anti-mage that he's very, very famous for. I mean, we're saying like we're counting RMM already completely out of this. Can they hopefully turtle in some way as Queen of Pain about to get entangled? Yeah? Oh, okay, no.
They have a strong turtling lineup. They've got a lot of AoE. The issue for me is they don't have much physical damage. Their Gyrocopter is a BKB, Tranquil Boots, and Rena Basilius. So how are you going to kill a BKB Shadow Fiend? How are you going to kill a Lone Druid as a Cloak? I mean, it's going to take you a while to bring these heroes down. And if there's an Aegis up on CTY, then he comes back and does it all over again. And, well, this might end the game a little bit quicker. Going to find another solo kill on Lippy. That Masquerade is really showing its prowesses. This is, you know, this build does not work in 5v5 combat unless you're really far ahead, but fantastic for just creating map presence and essentially putting pressure on the enemy supports.
Yeah, I mean, this build is designed to get him far ahead, and basically when he's far ahead, your supports can't even leave the safety of tier 3 towers. And, well, Lippy tried, and he's going to be dead. San Diego, oh, Vacuum, Ice Path, they're going to try to burst him down. And these are the random pickoffs that, again, they're not going to lose a game because of it.
Oh, they're going to pay for this.
Take the fight. Oh, here we go. Epicenter, but no, looks like the cooldown a little bit too slow. Shadow Fiend comes in from behind, and he's going to be on cleanup. And he's going to get every single kill here.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what we were discussing is, sure, maybe they can kill the Shadow Fiend, maybe they can kill the Lone Druid, but it's such an investment to kill them. And then the other one just comes in, cleans house. And the other one, generally being CTY this game. 13-1-3. His team is 19 kills. He's been in on 16 of them. Really a tour de force.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make before that team fight breaks out is that sure, San Diego dying there won't actually have a big effect in this game, but it really shows the inexperience of the team. And the reason I'm being so hard on Vici Gaming is that I could see them go very far. I mean, CTY, very young player, and a very, very dominating player that we're witnessing this game, but they need to actually shape up these plays. Look at him. It's actually when walking in front of the tower, in front of the fountain, trying to get something going, but...
Uh-oh. He doesn't have BKB. Might be in a bit of a pickle here. Here comes the Requiem, though. It's probably time to back. I think there's a Queen of Pain ultimate available. He's going to look to head away to the right. Gets Vacuum back in. That's 800 gold down the drain. Well, you talked about the throws, Lumi. I don't know if they're going to lose, but these are definitely some attempts at throwing right now we're seeing as Rilimin are going to happily collect a few free kills on the back of that CTY death.
Something about being China's. Something fish about China. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you for your translation.
No problem. I try.
2 gems on the deck.
Right next to each other?
Yeah, just 2 casual
Best
gems.
friends, yep. Wait, who was holding 2 gems?
I think there was one that Radiant lost earlier, and then Vici Gaming had 2, and then when we saw Keeper of the Light go down, he dropped another 2, so...
Okay.
Just 2 hit the deck. Nobody cares about them, apparently.
Nobody gives a damn. He's pinging. Oh, look, like, Lippy's gonna take one.
This is like a party for a support
A
player.
gem for everybody.
And, well, Vici Gaming making this game harder on themselves than it needs to be, but now they're going to Roche. I imagine with this Aegis up on CTY, then they'll look to break that second lane of Rax, and despite that fight not going their way, should be relatively painless for them. But if they lose a couple more fights, then it will get hard.
Well, Global's gonna be available in 5 seconds, and so Realm's gonna try to do something, but Aegis is done. It's gonna get picked up here by San... Oh, it's not picked up yet! Are they gonna make a... Oh, here comes the Quap.
CTY says, I don't need that. You take it.
Oh,
Oh, what? What is this game? What the hell is this game?
Oh, is he gonna die for it? He has Blink up. Is he blinking? Blinking?
Oh, gets
And-
pushed to the high ground after a midget blink that was too short by the blinding light of our Keeper of the Light. That is actually Woe Dodo worthy. Holy crap. Or not, or Dodo, what is it called? Fails of the Week worthy.
Yes. Well done, fair.
Holy shit.
Aegis, and then like the short blink, which is the fail in itself.
You were not kidding when you said the EG of China. My goodness.
I wasn't kidding with the EG of China. Like, what's going on? Like, they're clearly dominating. They're winning so hard. Why don't you just win?
It was a trap. They wanted to give the Queen of Pain a false sense of security. Now when they break the base, well, now they'll play well, Lumi.
Yeah, I mean, now they're calm, collected, with the BKB a crit, Yasha, Mask of Midness, Yasha. I mean, this guy...
Somewhere 2009 is shaking his head furiously.
2009 might be a little bit proud, too, because evolution of the Shadow Fiend. The bear, in a little bit of trouble, too.
Yeah, well, they're looking to siege down the base. I think they'll still be able to break him. A T-Duck, potentially a big vacuum here. Catches out 3. Ice Path to follow. No wall, though. Nice global. That's the global they were looking for. And now the turnaround comes. CTY manning up. Well, the turnaround on the Rex, but hey, get 2 lanes of Rex. This game is pretty much in the bag. Now the wall deployed. Too late. $1 late, $1 short. I think BKB up on our Shadow Fiend, dropping to his own illusion. Pops it with the Requiem. Forced to back off. They get 2. They should probably be able to kill Yumo, who drastically underestimates the amount of damage that CTY can put out. Just a fountain of destruction, this guy. And now the Sanji Yasha complete, taking the YYF Lifestealer build to the next level he is. And on that note, they're going to take 2 lanes of Rax, and with it, I think the game.
Yeah, I mean, I just love after casting an LGD endgame where they're really, really methodical, taking a tower after tower, all 6 tower into the Roshan, and then slow siege up for Rax. And then the difference of playing style of Vici Gaming, a big sledgehammer, just down every single lane possible, looking for random kills here or there, and then just, you know, not really clean. It's really messy, in fact, but it gets the job done.
I can't get over that Aegis snatch. So that is one for the history books.
It's not even a snipe. Somebody put this with dubstep music and 420 YOLO swag. Queen of Pain just walked up, and they didn't even punish him. So, like, what the hell's going on?
And it wasn't even like it was a successful bait, because the Queen of Pain just blinked away and lived. Oh my goodness, that one goes in the fails of the week. I mean, really the fails of the year, because this happened in an official match for the G1 League. The most, I would argue, if not the most prestigious tournament, then certainly top 3 or so outside of the international too. And as far as money goes, the best. As far as having an international or roster of team goes, the only tournament to do it outside of the international. And to play like that in a tournament like this, well, Vici Gaming not going to get away with that sort of shenanigan against a better team. That being said, Rilimin were really far behind, but if the game was a bit closer, that could have cost them, man. That really could have cost them.
I mean, we're being really, really hard, because this game
They
is
gave
really
up an Aegis!
They did! Alright, but we're being really hard. They're clowny, so we're being clowny, and thus the game's clowny, but
see, I mean, based on the fact that you said they actually lost the game due to these kinds of mistakes, it's one thing to mess around when you're ahead, but when you lose big games, like the GST Challenge, which had some premier competition, then you got to worry a little bit. And, well, we'll see if Vici Gaming buckles down. They are a young, inexperienced team. There's time for them to mature, solidify their decision-making, but my goodness. Still, all things considered, Lumi, CTY Shadow Fiend, a scary beast and a half.
Definitely the case. Looking for a ban in Game 2.
All right, guys, stay tuned. When we come back, we will have game number 2 of this best out of 3, Rilimin versus Vici Gaming. Currently, Vici Gaming leading the series 1-0, but not out of the woods yet. They got to bring the cow home, basically, or the hog home. Whatever, my farm analogy is not top-notch. LGD is waiting for whoever takes this series. Stay tuned, more action after this.